a little after 4 o'clock. My name's John Ostman. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. Joining me today is our clerk, Mariah Lestage, Lynn Eichholt, and Mary Wright, who are members. Also from staff today, we have George Meserve, Director of Planning and Community Development, Elizabeth Jenkins, Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development, and Karen Sharpless, our Administrative Assistant. So first we'll get started with public comment. Don't think we have anyone in the audience for that. Do we have anyone online?
No hands raised.
Great, thank you very much. Communications, George, we have anything?
There's nothing since the agenda went out.
Okay, thank you very much. We have item number 3 on the agenda, which is an approval not required, Kevin and Stacy Higgins, Scott and Nancy Higgins, 43 Kenneth Lane. For this item on the agenda, George Meserve and I are going to recuse ourselves for just this portion of the meeting, and the gavel will pass to Mariah Lestage, our clerk, who will be interim chair for this one item. So thank you, Mariah.
Thank you, John. We'll come get you when we're done. And with this, I will hand it over to Elizabeth. Oh, did you want to set up, or?
No, but we do have Attorney Zender and the applicant here. I will let them make the initial presentation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. I'm Ben Zender. I'm here on behalf of the Higgins family, and Jeff Cronin is our surveyor from Ryder and Wilcox.
Surveyor.
Nice to meet you. Maybe Jeff can just tell you a little bit about the property. I'll preface it by saying we have already been to the Board of Appeals because this is a family lot. It has two existing homes on it. The zoning bylaw provides that if you have homes that existed before a certain date, you can by special permit have less than the required frontage in Orleans, 125 feet. Also, because of the change in the lot definition to exclude land that's not buildable upland from lot area, these lots were non-conforming as to being 40,000 square feet of buildable upland, even though they have more than that. So we went to the Board of Appeals. In addition to the special permit, we got a variance from the upland requirements. So the lots, as laid out, do comply with zoning with that relief on those permits. And so, thank you.
So yes, it's a two-lot A&R that has a special permit and a variance granted. We have on 43 Kenneth Lane, it was a 1.85 acre lot, parcels 37, 63 into two lots, 1 and 2 is what we're asking for. Lot 1 will have a total of 40,289 square feet, buildable upland of 38,129 square feet. Lot 2 will have a total area of 40,324 square feet and buildable upland of 36,334 square feet. And they will both have frontage of 8,750 feet along Kenneth Lane. Again, the dwelling on Lot 1 was built in 1941. The dwelling on Lot 2 was built in 1961. And again, on May 8th, those variance and special permit were granted that Ben has already spoken about.
And finally, the only requirement of the zoning board, the shed had to be relocated so it met current zoning requirements. And so it's been relocated, so it's 16.1 feet from the property line, where its height is 13.3, where in Orleans, you have to be set back by the height of your accessory building. Thank you.
Very good. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Mariah. So as the board is aware, with an approval not required plan, you are making findings regarding adequate frontage and access per the staff memo, with the relief granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. We believe both are met. So the consideration, again, is whether the plan can be approved without the requirements of a subdivision, or whether it is, in fact, a subdivision. And the board should have a memo that presents findings and a proposed motion to endorse.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Me?
Great.
Well, could I hear a motion?
I'd be happy to do a motion, which is, the board agrees, so therefore we will endorse the plan entitled Plan of Land in Orleans, Mass, prepared for Higgins Kenneth Lane Realty Trust, drawn and stamped by Jeffrey Cronin, Ryder and Wilcox, dated April 17th, 2026, as an approval not required plan.
Second.
Thank you. And thank you, Lynn. Is there any other discussion that we need to have?
No,
Okay.
not by me.
Then I think we just need to do a vote.
Roll call, yep. I would do roll call.
Well, we don't have anybody on.
It's all right, I would just do roll call, might as well.
Okay,
I, Mary Wright. I so move, we approve this.
all right.
Yes.
Mariah Lestage, yes? I
All
believe
right.
it is approved.
We're all set.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
May all of your approvals be so easy.
I know, yes,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Never are.
You can still go
They
pick up
never
my
are, I
kids.
know.
Never are,
I
no.
know, absolutely not.
Thank you all.
Let the other guys
Well,
know.
why don't we do that right now while we're transitioning? That sounds great. All right.
I'm gonna wait for this one.
Thank you, Mary.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you, Lynn.
It's signed
Five
today
number
too, this is amazing.
Just so few faces up there. So few faces up there. Give me a
Thank you.
stand for here. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Jenkins.
You want?
Oh, but I can write?
So for those at home, bear with us a little bit while Mylars and papers are getting signed
No,
and
it's
Stick around.
perfect.
proceed.
Give me the,
I will. Generally, we,
Approved, I assume.
rainy day to send the field guys up to stamp it. Is there any rush on that? So we will
thank you.
It's not.
Here's my folder.
What is it, 426?
28.
28.
I noticed this last time.
I know, last time I was able to turn it on, but when I plugged it in.
Bring it over here.
Okay, just sign here? Anywhere?
Anywhere on one of those lines, yep.
Okay.
I use your pen since it's blue or black. I've got purple. Maybe it was probably not.
Do pass that down to the ladies.
Oh,
It's an
perfect.
old-fashioned plan signing going here.
That's all right. Thank you.
Everyone sign that. This is signed, this is signed. Bring your pen for just a
Yeah.
second. So you've got three things. Those are signed, and this is signed. Somebody's missing from here.
Me.
Nice and dry now.
Great. Do I see that Francesca has joined us?
That would be wonderful. Oh, okay.
There she is.
Thank you.
There you are.
Hello.
Can you hear us? Good.
Yes.
Folder somewhere?
Francesca Galassi has joined us, and we're ready to move on to item number 4 on the agenda, zoning discussion, and we'll turn the meeting over to Elizabeth, please.
Thank you. So at our last meeting, oh gosh. I'm gonna be so prepared to make sure this is gonna work. There we go. Okay. So just an update on our Phase 1 reorganization and technical review that we approved at special town meeting. It was approved by the Attorney General 2 weeks ago. So I know the last time we were here, that was still up in the air. So hooray, congratulations. So we will pass that on to the town clerk, and she will pass it on to the code, folks who do the code update, the E-code update. And so as soon as that is all done and incorporated, we'll make sure you guys all get updated copies of that reorganized zoning ordinance. So we can check the box on Phase 1. Which is great. So last time we talked about Phase 2 and just sort of the broad spectrum of identified needs that we were going to try to sort of work through, see what we could cover in our next update, again, aiming at fall town meeting. And today I just want to focus really on what I think our modernization priority should be, and that is our use table. Specifically, try to take a bite out of that commercial uses section, because I think that is the one that is the biggest. It's 2 pages in total, and probably will generate the most discussion and have the most change. So I want to start talking about that today, and then also talk a little bit about our process going forward for this effort as a whole, again, to help prioritize what we might bring to Fall Town Meeting, and a schedule to engage the boards and the public going forward. So again, talking about modernization and that use table, what are our objectives here? So again, our use table has a lot of antiquated uses in it, a lot of uses in it. I didn't count the number of entries, but there have to be over 100 individual entries in the use table. So my recommendation is that we look to group similar uses together into categories, and this helps address, again, some of those uses that are antiquated and some of the uses that we have today that might be antiquated in 5 years. So again, general categorization of uses, thinking about our use table as an economic development tool. So while you want things to be general, you also want a business to be able to come in. Maybe they don't, maybe they're not well versed in zoning, but open up your table, say, can I do this use here? And say, yes, like I can clearly identify that I can open the type of business I want to here in Orleans. So have it be clear and have it be, incorporate uses that we are trying to add and promote. So with this will come adding, updating and adding associated definitions to these uses, especially as we categorize. And farther down the line, probably talking about some revisions to some of the limitations in the use table, although we're probably not going to get there today. There are a couple, not just this footnote 4, but there are limitations in some other districts as well that we can talk about down the line. So again, first objective, thinking about categories of use, grouping similar uses into general categories, but then picking out what is different, what has a disparate impact in terms of impacts on the neighborhood, noise, et cetera, that should not be lumped in with those other categories, and in fact should, say, go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit for additional review. So our use table, again, has uses that are permitted by right, uses that are permitted with a special permit through a public hearing and approval through Zoning Board of Appeals, and uses that are prohibited. And these are our districts. Again, I don't have a full use table draft for you today, so we're not going to necessarily talk about what goes where, but let's do the categories, and the next time I think we can have a solid draft of the table. So jumping right in, these are all, again, uses that I would consider similar that you find in the use table, 11 different ones there. But I would consider this last one, dog kennels or veterinary hospitals, not necessarily like the others. Probably has different impacts in terms of noise, timing of use outdoor. So when we think about this, maybe we can categorize all the first 10 of these uses into a single category, personal and consumer services. Again, uses that would probably be permitted, at least in our commercial districts, by right, but then pull out as a separate use and an exception are one use that is not like the others, dog kennels. And then, of course, if we're going to just say personal and consumer services, we're going to think about needing a definition for that. So for this example, this definition is rather expansive, but essentially says all uses that are providing services directly to customers, again, that have a sort of a similar in and out type of impact and that are customarily found in commercial areas. So generally, this is the exercise, finding uses that are similar, group together, put them into categories, and find ones that are appropriate for special permit or additional consideration. So this is our personal service category. Our retail, yeah?
Just ask one question, Elizabeth.
Absolutely.
Go back to that one. And here you've got health and medical services, services as opposed to doctors and dentists' offices.
Yeah, so that's funny. So we just talked about that one. Actually, it was the last one we were trying to work through. I think, and we can adjust that wording, I think health, medical services, doctor's office, dentist's office are appropriately categorized as personal and consumer services. I don't think they're particularly different in terms of impacts than your health club or your post office.
That's fine, I guess I was just thinking, because I wasn't seeing it listed as on the left-hand side.
We don't have a category.
We don't have a category.
Just
Is
have
that right?
Office
We have
space.
offices.
I'm just, it's, just, all right, that's fine, just,
Excellent call. I think it's a use that is distinct from an office,
Yeah.
certainly, but not necessarily distinct from a personal service.
So one quick point on that. This is the use table of where uses are allowed.
right.
There are some impacts like water demand of a, dentist's office has more water use, or parking demand. Those things are handled in other aspects of town code.
Okay,
So the parking regs are separate from whether the use is allowed in the district.
okay, fine.
So that's personal service. Retail, again, you see we have, I think those are 12 different categories of potential retail. So those would get grouped into one line item, simply retail sales, sale, lease, or rental of goods to the consumer. And then going through the ordinance, these are things that I do not feel fall into that same general category. So actually, gasoline sales, vehicle repair and maintenance fall under one line item in our code today, filling stations and garages. So we would break those out. And then all the other ones would be called out as exceptions and require special permits, again, dependent on what district they are located in. Our cultural services, right now we have just art gallery and museum. Of course, there could be a wide range of different types of cultural services that might be provided. So this is both a categorization and I think, again, an expansion of what we might allow today in terms of arts and culture. So provision of social and cultural services, including social organizations, production, manufacture, publishing, rehearsal, performance, broadcast, selling, teaching of the arts. And one thing that our Economic Development Committee, as well as our Economic Development Officer, called out was this emerging industry that we have here in Orleans, which is not necessarily retail, not necessarily manufacturing, but this idea of artisan industry. I think a really great example of this might be something like Nauset Lantern. So folks who are producing small scale goods at a very high level that's particularly in a visitor economy, folks might want to invest in and take away as a sort of representation of place. So the recommendation was to create a new category of use, artisan industry, to be able to promote this as a use that we want to encourage, which again is the small scale fabrication of goods by an artist or craft person, as long as a selling and teaching of that craft as well. These are our recreational uses in the code. So we have an amusement park, which is prohibited across the board. Apparently somebody was nervous about that at some point in Orleans. Marinas, miniature golf course, also prohibited across the board right now. I don't know about you, but I think it's great. A miniature golf course would be great to have. And then very general, a categorized use, anything other than an amusement park or miniature golf. But I think a lot not covered under here. So perhaps creating an indoor commercial recreation category that would be permitted sort of along the lines of the personal service uses. And then by special permit, outdoor commercial recreation and marina as it is presented in our code today. So in some uses that is permitted, in some uses, or in some zones that is permitted, and some by special permit, but continuing to call that out as a individual use.
So the golf course by Wendy's is grandfathered in,
Correct.
It is.
Yeah.
and unfortunately, the one that was behind Katie's is long gone.
Yeah.
No, it's still there.
Is it still there? Are they gonna be?
not
allowed to use
recognizable.
it? Yeah, exactly. All right.
Sure, it's open to the public.
There you go.
Okay, so really looking for your feedback on this one because restaurants are tough. So right now, obviously, in addition to bakery, we have 3 different categories of what we call restaurants. So we have restaurants with entertainment and alcohol, and then we switched to this sort of the negative, restaurants without entertainment, restaurants without alcohol. And I will say the way these line up in the code, when you look at what's permitted and what's prohibited, are conflicting. So it doesn't always make sense in terms of the way you read it, what's permitted and what's prohibited. We also have regulations that have gone in place over time on fast food restaurants and formula-based businesses. Formula-based businesses, just as a reminder, again, specifically apply to restaurants and are like large chains, basically anything that has 2 or more trade symbols that are shared by 10 or more businesses is a formula-based restaurant. So again, promoting local business over your chains.
Just
Yeah.
stop you right there. So for example, so Wendy's is grandfathered in, and Dunkin' Donuts is grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And I believe, George will give you the institutional history, but I believe that these regulations came in response to Wendy's, and sort of
Came
saying-
around that time, right?
Yeah, about the same time that Wendy's came in, and folks said maybe we should get a better handle around this.
And as a clarification, because some people might be thinking it too, is where we say restaurant fast food, which is prohibited, that doesn't include restaurants that are permitted, that also do takeaway.
Correct. So I would suggest that what's the difference between a takeaway restaurant versus a sit-down restaurant? That instead we generalize all restaurants, bakeries, cafes into a category that is food and beverage service, a use that involves the preparation and sale of food and or beverage for on-premise consumption, off-premise consumption, or both, but continue to maintain prohibitions on fast food and formula-based restaurants. And then again, continue the allowances on mobile food and the regulations on drive-in, drive-through, which I think are appropriate and work well today, which could apply actually to things other than restaurants, theoretically. We just added them in here for,
Mariah's question.
Yeah.
Question for you.
Yeah.
What is a restaurant with entertainment? Is that like a restaurant that lets a band in to play?
correct. So it's a great question. So entertainment isn't specifically defined under the code, but the idea is that it would probably be associated from a regulatory perspective with a license for amplified music or performances. So right now there are certain districts, specifically our rural business district, that do not allow restaurants with entertainment. So the question I think we have from you is we do have other permitting processes that do address whether or not an establishment can have entertainment. Specifically, if you want to have entertainment, you have to have a license from the select board to provide said entertainment. Do we want to continue to categorize restaurants with respect to their provision of alcoholic beverages and with respect to the provision of entertainment? So that is a point for discussion. Another use that we see frequently and that we even have here in Orleans is brewery and distillery, something that, again, from an economic development perspective, I think is good to have. Doesn't necessarily fit into food and beverage services, but one we might want to consider adding into our use table as well. So I do think this entertainment issue, again, is one with some history here in Orleans, and we should be thoughtful about how we proceed on that going forward.
Because the brewery and distillery gets into, it's a manufacturing
Right.
process,
Yeah.
as well as a food service business, as well as an entertainment site.
Right.
Because I'm also thinking just about the, if a restaurant wanted to expand, because one of the economic development things we've been talking about is always talking about culinary and talent development and whatever. So, does a restaurant have the ability to add on a school, which becomes more of could become a production in one way or another? So, I don't know if that's something that has to be, specified, again, to this economic development of I think we are asking businesses to consistently be more entrepreneurial as far as what they can do with their existing infrastructure. So I guess as we think about this, it should always be, are we precluding something on purpose? Which is fine if we have a reason for precluding it.
Right.
But did we think about what's that add-on that these businesses might want to do, which may or may not upset the apple cart in terms of how we think about zoning in that particular space?
Yeah, excellent comment. And along those lines, and some feedback that we've gotten from our zoning board, we won't talk about this today, but I do think this is a priority to talk about in the future, is the lack of language in our code regarding accessory uses. So everything we see on our screen today, is the principal and primary use of the property. But as you know, whether you're a business or a homeowner, there are always accessory uses that happen in and around. How is that defined? What is subordinate to the principal use? And how can we allow that in a general way, but still keep the safeguards in place? So there's a lot of guidance on that that's out there, but I think sort of opening that up more clearly and saying, yes, a business, this is your principal use, but to a certain extent, you can have other accessory uses that are incidental and subordinate to that use, and that is okay.
Which is exactly that artisanal thing you were talking about. Because I'm thinking of Adorn, and she's got her own
Yeah,
little
great example.
manufacturing
Yeah.
back here. So, and again, we don't want to put something that precludes somebody from having that entrepreneurial spirit to come up with something else.
Yes. And I think, again, opening that up, whether it's through the use table or whether it's through a discussion of accessory uses, is a really great, a great objective for this exercise as well. And then these are all uses that are in our use table, which again, don't sort of nicely fit into any of these other categories. These are some of our industrial uses, marine uses, uses which again, I think we should maintain, if not separately. Another use that we get a lot here in town, as well as around the Cape, self-storage facility. We have no line item for this or definition of this. So I know the zoning board has been struggling with this recently, so adding in a definition as well, and allowing that use appropriately, bless you, I think is something to think about as well. The other category, hotel motel, I know we talked about potentially looking at some of the associated regulations that are there, and we can do that later. There are very strict limitations on which may or may not make sense, as this is a use that we're trying to recruit and encourage. But keeping it in there as well. We also don't have a line item for bed and breakfast, just not addressed at all in the code, and under other sort of, again, regulatory frameworks would not qualify for a hotel motel. So something, appropriately located in our Seward commercial districts, we might want to think about adding from an economic development perspective. I know we have a number of historic single-family homes in our downtown area that, again, might be appropriate for conversion for this use. And in a visitor economy like ours, we might want to think about ways we offer those visitor accommodations in the future. But we'd have to be thoughtful about a definition there as well. So in summary, again, what you have right now are sort of 2 pages of uses in alphabetical order. And if we put this all together, this is theoretically what our use table could look like, at least focusing specifically on the commercial uses. We have other categories, of course, residential, agricultural, accessory, et cetera. But, this would be the core of it. So you'd have your commercial uses, personal, retail, office, your recreational and cultural, artisan industry, indoor, your recreationals, your food and beverage, your visitor accommodations, industrial uses, and then we'll obviously just sort of carry forward all of those uses that fall under the marijuana category, but show up in our use table as well, and then call out the exceptions under each one of these. So this would look like personal and consumer services permitted in these districts, except for dog kennels and veterinary, and they would have their own sort of special permit use category. But yeah, this would be the general organization, reorganization before we did the full exercise of it. We just wanted to make sure we were on track and that this approach seems like going in the right direction.
Just a quick question at this point, Elizabeth, is that I don't like to ask questions I don't already know the answer to, but
Just have to be brave.
I'm gonna ask one anyway, is that with the use table and the cleaning up of that, and this is all in line with the cleaning up of the whole code and everything else that we've been through, and we want to make, stimulate economic development, we want to make the code simpler, we want to be friendly to business, protect everyone, but also be friendly to business and do that balance the right way. As we did with the zoning overlay district process and project last fall, this to me inspires some public hearings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just want to make sure that as people see this at home and listen to this, that there will be lots of public input into this to make sure that everybody understands what we're trying to do. We take the edits and comments from everybody so that we hear the consensus of the community, but also for them to understand why we're going through all this to clean it up and make Orleans a much more open community while doing the proper protections and zoning as any community would need. So it's striking that proper balance. But just to assure everyone, there will be a series of public hearings to make sure that we, of course, get it right.
Absolutely.
I got a question on the, on Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Francesca?
Thank you. Yeah, just a few questions. For the use table that we're looking at now, everything on the left-hand side, those are all will be defined and those will be by right uses. Is that correct? And then things that are defined as special permit uses will have to go through that permitting process if they fall into that category. Is that correct?
So this is a very broad generalization, but
Okay.
no. So yes and no. I mean, this is a broad
Okay.
generalization. So again,
Okay.
what might be permitted by right in the industrial district might not be permitted, obviously, by right in the village center. So we're
Okay,
not
right.
breaking, this
It would
isn't the
depend
full
on-
table here.
Okay.
This
You're
is
just showing the grouping.
We're just showing the groupings, making
Okay.
sure you guys are on board with the groupings. And then
Okay.
I don't think the intent here is to change really what is permitted where, but to take these groupings and then to apply them to the 6 different districts
Okay.
as they are applied today. And we can go back and once we have that, do a review. We will certainly highlight things that we think might need adjusting. So, do we want to
Okay.
be a little bit more permissive or restrictive regarding any of these specific uses
Specific
and any of
uses.
these specific, that'll be our next step.
Okay. And then would that apply as well to what you mentioned earlier about like the entertainment definitions in restaurant? That will be a later conversation as well.
I mean, that's up to you. I know I'm just throwing this out at you guys, so I don't want to pressure any conversation, but we're just trying to, again, call out things that we know we're going to need feedback,
Yeah.
whether they're now or later.
Okay.
But happy to take thoughts or comments on that at any time.
What would it mean to not have that like entertainment component? Like, would that be an accessory use that you were mentioning? Like, does it have to be defined in order for businesses that have that component to continue to use them?
It doesn't. I don't think most zoning ordinances, if you scanned across the Cape, pull out alcohol and entertainment separately from the use. They might, but I would say generally not. So no. So the use, if we did not have those additional provisions, would just look like food and beverage service, as you see here, or if you can see here. Sorry, and then. The entertainment would be regulated separately through a license process with the select
Okay.
board.
And that's the same as alcohol. It's a separate license.
Same as
well.
alcohol. I mean, the question here really is, if it's permitted by right versus if it's permitted by special permit, under what circumstances do we think it is necessary to have a public hearing or notice of butters on these uses? I mean, that's the fundamental difference between
Okay.
having a use that is by right versus one that is differentiated by special
Okay.
permit.
In either way, in either scenario, they still have to go to the select board for a license.
In any case, they have to go
In
to the
any
select
case.
board for the license.
Okay, that's
Correct.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So does that leave us with a question of whether there's standards for the issuance of those licenses at the select board level? Whether they want to have standards or whether they should be vested in zoning or not, kind of
Right.
protection needs to be somewhere, right?
Correct, yes. Yes, obviously there are other regulatory considerations that happen at the select board level. Are they the same as the ones we have here is that an appropriate land use in this location? Are we, regulating the time, place, manner, intensity, abuse?
Okay. So some districts could have like a by right usage for food and beverage with entertainment, for example, and another district it could not be by right. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I know we're just taking a chunk out, but this felt like a big chunk.
Yeah, I know that.
There's a lot to think about just in the restaurant alone.
Right, exactly, so. And I do think that is how, I don't have my use table in front of me, but I do think that's how it's organized today, is that in our commercial centers, you are allowed by right food and beverage with entertainment, but in our rural residential district, rural business district, they do come with a special permit requirement.
John, I think it's worth pointing out that time has gone by and uses that had stigmas don't have the same stigmas they used to have. I think a good point is the tattoo studio on Main Street, which would have been prohibited or not desirable in the town 25 years ago, but now is there and is active and is not injurious to the townspeople in any meaningful way. It's all by appointment only. And I think arcades, alcoholic beverages are probably in that kind of category. The excesses that seemed to pervade 2 generations ago may have slipped away here, at least for now.
Well, again, and the point's well taken, but we want to make sure that when we go through this process, this is my point about public hearings, is that we want to understand what we're doing, to make sure that we understand what we're doing. And that we have pretty much a consensus buy-in to what the use tables are. People understand what we're doing here. And there's an amount of discipline in all these things, is that we want to be a little more permissive to allow economic development, other kinds of growth, but we also want to be disciplined to make sure, that we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
So it's the balance piece.
And understanding that these have very, very real implications for businesses that are working in our community, especially if we look at making something more restrictive or making somebody non-conforming, the reality of that on financing, getting financing for a business or selling a business, could have tremendous implications. So I don't want to minimize what we're doing. So again, happy to take other comments or questions. Would be good to hear this is the right track and we're sort of bought into the generalization idea. But also, to John's point, I anticipate that this is a conversation that is going to generate a lot of discussion. So how do we want to structure that? What's our time frame? If we are aiming for a fall town meeting, again, I think I learned the last time, you got to really look ahead and make sure that you are working from the back forward. Obviously, we have a lot more work to do on this. We have town meeting coming up next month, so I think there's a good month there to continue to draft and have discussion. I think we should start to get some initial feedback. There are folks who we know are going to have comments based on our, the fact that they are weighing in with us already, or we have these conversations with generally, do we want to do some initial public outreach or some focus groups in that sort of May, June timeframe to hear some of those voices. So I think that that seems to make sense to me to happen in the May, June timeframe. I know we only want to have one meeting in July, but we'd love to get zoning board and architectural review committee in here, maybe jointly, to have that conversation. Do we try to target that July meeting to have that conversation, or is that too much? Is that too or should we have that earlier? I know we have, obviously membership changing on this board and other boards, so just taking that into consideration. And then hopefully by the time we get to August, we're really set on at least what our priorities and objectives are, what we're bringing forward as changes, and then start to have the broader public engagement and outreach meetings in August and September with the idea that we're set on what we want to do and have public hearings in October.
Well, to comment on that, it's the intent at this point to give the planning board a little bit of a summer break, because the last couple of summers have been working straight through. And we would like to, I mean, it might not happen, and we always reserve the right to call a meeting if there's a regulatory issue. That goes without saying. But it's our intent at this point to have one meeting in July, the first meeting, second Tuesday, and not the fourth Tuesday. And same thing in August, second Tuesday, and nothing at the end of August. That's the intent. So we want to work around that at this point, if we can. And the agenda for I guess that's the July 7th meeting? Hate to jump ahead so fast, but we need to think about that. It's the July 7th meeting. One of the main items there is reorganization. And we do need to do that. And whether that occurs at the beginning or end of the meeting is, up for grabs. I'm not worried about that. But I would say that the joint meeting with the ARC and the ZBA probably needs to happen sooner rather than later, And so wherever we want to invite them and get them in, early June or late June or early July, because I'd hate to wait till end of August for that.
Right, so,
Because, from Labor Day to town meeting in the fall is a blink of an eye.
maybe like the June 23rd meeting.
Yeah, if we could do that, it'd be great. Okay?
That makes more sense.
Well, a lot of fun things coming up.
All right. I know that was a lot, but that was a lot. You guys have, it's a big use table. But it sounds like we'll proceed with drafting that out into a full use table for your consideration next time, and starting to think about how and who we might want to engage over the next couple of months to start to get some initial public feedback on this.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the only thing I would say is obviously, George, you've got the history here in town of what has been the hot buttons, things that have, caused the most consternation. And so how is it that we think about those proactively, I guess I would say? And to your point about things which were hot button issues 15 years ago, people are like, ho-hum. But what were the things, sort of underlying, what was the root cause of the problem? Because it could be that it was, it's sort of we thought there would be a lot more people showing up because of, now that could be because it was a tattoo parlor, or because it was entertainment, or because it was whatever. So what seems to be the thing that, drives people nuts? And think about, therefore, how to propose those in a way that, has some background in reality around, let's think about how these things have happened before and when it's changed, what's been the implication? Because we certainly learned that from the zoning discussion, or, the overlay, was that there's a lot of, people are assuming all of this is going to happen in 2 minutes. Without any oversight, without any review, without any whatever. And so how is it that we share this in a way where all that is acknowledged up front, as opposed to having to bring that into the discussion later on?
That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, I do think, yes, and I do think you're absolutely spot on about calling out what are those hot buttons, because I think for the most part, I like thinking about this just as modernization. I mean, I don't feel like we're trying to really change anything across the board. We're just sort of updating how we're looking at this and how we're generally approaching the regulation of land use, but we are going to come up against things like the restaurants with entertainment issue, which I know will generate a lot more conversation. And let's make sure we vet those so we can accomplish all this other stuff without getting help.
Before we leave this subject, I think, Ben, you had your hand up. Would you like to speak for a minute?
Yeah, just one comment, and I think Elizabeth just got it perfectly, which is that I think.
Ben, will you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Ben Zender, and I'm a resident of the town. I think entertainment is going to be one thing that people will look at in the code as how it affects their own neighborhood. I think the East Orleans area around the Barley Neck is very sensitive to entertainment issues. So I think that, although I really favor just creating a restaurant classification and allowing the selectmen to handle that, that may be difficult to pass at town meeting. But what I'd like to say, and this is something that I talked about with George recently, and I was going to wait a while to bring it up, but I think it might be time to talk about it now, is no matter how you structure these use tables, people are going to come up with uses of land that don't fit in the use table. And the way the use table is set up, like most towns, is that any use that is not permitted is prohibited. The statute, general laws also provide that a town can allow for use variances in its code, and Orleans specifically does allow the Board of Appeals, it grants them the right to grant, the ability to grant use variances. But the standard that you have to apply to grant a use variance is you have to demonstrate a hardship that's owing or related to either the topography of the land, the shape of the lot, or a soil condition. And we have found that you just can't make those criteria fit with a use variance. You can make them fit with dimensional variances, why you need to relocate a building to another site, or a triangular lot, or something like that. So one of the things that I think might be important to look at while you are looking at cleaning up this code is seeing whether or not you can find an appropriate standard for a use variance as opposed to a dimensional variance. Overwhelming public need. You know, there's some other things you can put so that when people come in with this thing, like all of a sudden they want to have a cooking school as part of the restaurant, they can go into the Board of Appeals and petition for that variance, have a public hearing, and have the ability to actually have the board grant a use variance. So that might be a standard that would be a nice adjunct to a reworking of the code. I talked about it with George. It's kind of a difficult thing to address, and it may be more than you want to bite off at this point. But it would be very helpful for us as practitioners when we have people coming in that, I'll give you a classic example. We had a client years ago wanted to put a car sales place on Nell's Way, which lends itself to that very well. But the back part of Nell's Way is a residential district, you know, and we couldn't get there from here. We couldn't do it, although that would have been a classic example of the Board of Appeals saying, look, you can have some rental cars in the back of where the car wash is, in that area right there. So something you may want to think about, and I won't waste any more of your time today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ben. Please, appreciate it. Elizabeth, are we through with this section?
I think that's, unless there are other comments or sort of things to take away, again, I think we'll go through and continue to build this out into the different districts and, again, have, you know, these conversations. I think we should be ready with those additional technical update drafts very shortly. And then, again, these conversations about effectiveness, intent, and purpose. Is it still relevant? Filling gaps that are identified at, like, the accessory use section. I think by having these conversations, these will come out and we can turn these into amendments. And then hopefully by the time we get to that sort of August, September timeframe, you know, sort of hit go, no go on all of them and see what we're ready to bring forward.
Great. Any other comments from the board for Elizabeth on this subject? If not, let's move on to item 5, the proposed comprehensive permit for redevelopment of Governor Prince Motel site in 78 affordable/attainable dwellings. So, Elizabeth, would you
So
like
I
to
will,
walk us through
I
this?
will speak to this. Obviously, I am not the applicant, but what you have received is notice of the filing of a special permit. Sorry, I'm still thinking about use variance. This was in my head. Filing of an application for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law 40B for an affordable housing development here in Orleans, obviously 66 and 76 Route 6A in Orleans. This is the property, the Governor Prince, that the town purchased, put out for RFP, awarded to the consortium of developers, POA, Housing Assistance, and Habitat for Humanity. And again, they came to the town to the select. So status of that right now is we currently have, with those developers, awarded them the rights to develop and purchase and own the property in accordance with the RFP proposal, which is consistent with that which you see here in your comprehensive permit application. we supported this comprehensive permit application through the local initiative process. Basically, the town signed on and said that we were supportive of the application, and through that provided sort of subsidy in the eyes of the state. So they do have authorization from the state, both on the homeownership side and the rental side, to move forward with this development. And what else was I going to add? And again, so they have filed that application with the Zoning Board of Appeals, and pursuant to the regulations on how those 40B permits get processed, they have the single permitting authority, which is, again, the Zoning Board of Appeals. So they act as the single and comprehensive permitting authority for all local regulatory boards in the town. But regulatory boards are required to be noticed and are invited to review the application, attend the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing, and make comment. So this agenda item is in response to that notice that was received for the application. Again, which is to construct and operate 78 units of affordable and moderate rental and homeownership on the property in multiple phases. That is 62 units of affordable housing in 2 buildings that are for rental, 10 market rate townhomes, and 7 affordable single-family homes to be developed by Habitat for Humanity over the course of 3 phases. So the developers are seeking a number of waivers from the local bylaw, the local zoning bylaw, as well as seeking a couple of waivers from the subdivision rules and regulations regarding lot shape factor and some of the standards for drainage. They will submit an approval not required plan as part of this process to divide those 3 phases into 3 individual lots. So 1 lot for the primary, for the affordable housing and for the primary sort of components of the infrastructure, 1 lot for the townhomes, and then 7 individual single-family home lots. So there will be lot division, as typically would be reviewed by the planning board as part of this process. So I think George was kind enough to provide you some of the initial site plans. We have all of the site plans and materials posted in a couple of locations on the town website. They should be with the Zoning Board of Appeals materials, as well as on the housing page. There's a specific page dedicated to Governor Prince and the entirety of the process. All of the plans are located there as well. So the public hearing has been advertised at Zoning Board of Appeals for Wednesday, May 20th at 7 o'clock downstairs in the Skakit room. Happy to take we are happy to collect comments here that you might want to formally make to the Zoning Board of Appeals in advance, or I can answer questions to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Elizabeth. First comment or question on my part is, if the Governor Prince project was to proceed, it didn't in this case, but would, if it started today and would proceed through the overlay district zoning, would it be similar to what we're doing now?
I will say that this process was started well before my tenure here, in terms of looking at the development potential of the property under the zoning today, as well as analyzing compliance and potential waivers from the zoning. Again, it's something that's been in the works for years now, well before we came up with the downtown housing overlay district. So in short, I have not reviewed this project for compliance with the ordinance as it stands. Again, that ordinance sort of didn't exist when this initial zoning analysis was done. I certainly will be interested to see how closely they comply with some of the standards. But in general, we encourage you to take a look at the architectural renderings and design. I personally think it's a very high quality, and I think that spoke to why this RFP, why this proposal was supported as part of the process in terms of the quality and character of design that's being presented.
What I'd like to do here is take comments or provide a way to get comments from the board, either orally today or in writing over the next short period of time, to compose a letter from the board to the ZBA with our comments, if any, or if none, then saying go ahead, that sort of thing. But I do think that the planning board, it's incumbent upon the planning board to provide a set of comments to a complex and important project as this. So I'll take, at this point, any comments from the board members about this, and if not orally today, we'll certainly have a window for written comments that we will compile into a letter that we would send to the ZBA. So I'll take any comments from the board.
I have none at the moment.
Okay. Mariah, anything?
Nothing from me right now. I'd like to take more time to review it.
Okay. Francesca?
Nothing at the moment, thank you.
Okay. And-
Same, I need to really study it.
Okay. So I think what we'll do is, from this point, rather than talk about it and try to glean some more detail, is that we'll individually provide our comments, have them come into George or me, probably into George, and we will compile a response to the ZBA that I'll sign, and we'll have that sent off in a short period of time. But let's set a period of a week to have comments into George about this, so that we can rapidly get this response to ZBA.
Great. I will also state, again, this is advertised for a public hearing on the 20th, where the applicant will be there to provide that full presentation of the project to the board. Again, that's, your full complement of permitting folks and architects and engineers and landscape architects, et cetera. So you're all invited to either attend or watch that meeting. I know the planning board, looks like we do have, a meeting shortly after that. So there's always the opportunity, if you are interested, to view that, to participate in that process as well. And we could always follow up with additional comments in response.
So they'll be taking comments for X period of time after the public hearing?
I would strongly encourage the zoning board to keep the public hearing open past the first meeting to allow for that, yes.
And John, if something's coming from the board, I think you should make that determination of what you want to send as a board in a public meeting to the extent that you can. So the 28th of May works really well for that. The only thing I'd add to the discussion is the sort of two elements of the project to consider. One is overall consistency with the town's comprehensive plan. The planning board is as close to the comprehensive plan as any other board in town. You wrote it, you've labored over it. So general comments to consistency with the town's goals for the downtown and for housing, I think, are appropriate. And then as to the waivers that are here and your thoughts on the dimensional waivers and the subdivision of the land in the general business district, I think are quite appropriate. So, I just wanted to kind of help maybe sort out the general from the specific for you.
George, let me ask you, along those lines, what is our time frame for responding to the ZBA?
You're not compelled to respond to the ZBA at all. You're offered an opportunity to comment. If the board opens on the 20th of May, I'd be very surprised if they closed the public hearing then after receiving a full presentation from the applicant with a fairly large project that has some complexity to it. So I would think the May 28th meeting is certainly an opportunity to finalize any comments. And I'm glad to collect them and compile them for you to vote on May 28th.
I'm just thinking that, in one way, I'd like for us to attend, if we can, individually or as a group, whatever, the May 20th presentation, but then to get all of our comments in and to have a letter composed and everything by 3 or 4 days later, which is the 26th of May is our next meeting, that seems to be a crunch. And if we have any comments, maybe we'd like to have that done and to them before their hearing. I don't know what makes sense.
Yeah, I think absolutely. If there are questions that on the application that you have that you would like addressed at that initial presentation and public hearing, it would be great to have those in advance. And then if you have comments on the things that, especially that George just called out collectively as a board after that public hearing is open, that might be a way to approach it.
Okay, so why don't we proceed with the original idea, is that everyone get your comments into George in the next week, please. George will compile them, and then we'll have a letter composed and sent to the ZBA prior to the May 20th hearing. Then, as a result of the May 20th hearing, if we have additional questions or anything else, we can deliberate and deal with them on the meeting of the 26th. Does that make sense?
That does.
Okay.
Is there anything out there, any presentation that's out there recorded, or the first one will be May 20th? First and only?
The most comprehensive presentation will be on May 20th. I will say they agreed to come to our site plan review process. That is the collection of our technical staff. Obviously, we want to make sure that they are following all of the technical requirements that we have and have requested all necessary waivers. So they did make an abbreviated presentation to the site plan review committee. If you are interested in watching that, we could send that link around.
Okay, yeah, I just, having listened to presentations at ZBA when I was on it, it's much easier to make comments when you get that color commentary by the folks that designed it than it is staring at these things. It's really hard.
It really is. And again, that's why I think we wanted to point out that, I do think the public hearing will remain open after. I would strongly encourage the zoning board to keep that public hearing open. And I think probably just by process will be necessary. Because I do think that, you don't want to hear it from me. It's appropriate to hear that presentation from the applicant. So yes, we can send around that link to site plan review if you want to get oriented. I think with the caveat that was a presentation to technical staff, to administrative technical staff, and did not cover sort of the benefits of affordable housing that this is providing, et cetera. It was more focused on fire access and utilities and stormwater design, but it does provide an overview if you're really interested to watch.
I mean, I guess part of my thing is if there are specific questions of things that aren't clear, I guess my point is that probably some of those are going to be discussed at the big open presentation. I also sort of feel like a lot of stuff, the horse is out of the barn on a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's how many units and that seems like that's kind of gone. So to your point about, does this seem, it's more like, are we endorsing it because it does go along with the comprehensive plan and it seems to meet our strategies and that kind of thing. So I'm
We're tied up a little because we awarded this, and they to an extent they need to proceed in compliance with the proposal that they made to the town that we considered and awarded.
Right.
But again, this is a town-sponsored 40B application in the sense that we were sort of subsidizing partners going into this process. But that's not to say that, again, the sort of details of this going forward, there are, the devil's in the details, and making sure that all of that works is important.
The timing of this meeting is a little bit difficult because that's also, it's a noticed meeting, so it's already been officially noticed, but that's also the same night as a select board meeting. The select board meeting will be up here, and that meeting, which might be very well attended, is going to be in a small room downstairs. And just want to make that observation that could be tough in terms of attendance and other things.
I do think that's customary for the zoning board, so I don't think they're intimidated by it, but for the rest of us,
Okay.
yes, it's a lot to juggle in one night.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else on this subject at this point, Elizabeth? No? Okay, any other comments or questions from the board? If not, we'll move on, okay? Item number 6 on the agenda tonight is committee reports, and we'll start with Mary for Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, and then Wastewater Management Advisory Committee.
Yeah, and I realize I left some things at home. Anyway, the Board of Water and Sewer, we received a number of reports at our last meeting, including the sort of annual report on water quality, which was fine. We had no issues there. So we can all rest assured that the water quality remains very high. We continue to get awards for that. And I know, as Sue says, they don't give us awards every year because we keep getting them. So anyway, that's all good news. I think we certainly talked about a couple of items on the warrant that that we are all in support of, which have to do with, doing some repairs at the water plant. So that's all good. I think what's clear is that, I guess I was trying to think about how do I link the reports from these two committees back to our comprehensive plan? Are there things there that seem to reflect back here? And I think in both cases, we're really talking about, Board of Water and Sewer and Wastewater Management, two committees that are certainly very focused on infrastructure improvements, making sure that those are happening. And certainly the good news is that we are looking at opening the bids. Are the bids for phase 4?
They were deferred 1 week.
Okay, deferred 1 week. Okay, so hopefully we will have those soon, but that is certainly progressing for phase 3 to be able to get that going. I think the other thing at wastewater was we were sort of nerds, George. We got really excited about, what was it about some particular how many gallons of water actually people were using, that actually it turned out that what we had been projecting for all these years is actually true. We were all very excited. It was very silly. But I think it has to do with, I think as much, the thing that I've been so impressed with wastewater management has been the, certainly it's some of the smartest people I've seen, truly, both on the professional side and on the local committee side, really understanding what it is we have to be doing in order to fulfill all of our requirements for meeting the state requirements for cleaning up Pleasant Bay. But I think that all of the work that we've been doing to collect data on the water usage and everything else has really been very successful in making the point that we will meet our requirements. I think that's the thing that's very exciting about all of this, is that all that investment, I think, is working, and that's very exciting. And it's something I think the town should be really proud of, that, particularly because we've got the question on the warrant to be able to continue investing in sewer, and I hope you all vote yes on that one. It is working, and that's quite an accomplishment, I think. So, all good news from both of those. I guess the only thing I would say is that it's clear to me also that I think the water facility, and thinking about our, how we maintain all of the water system, that's going to be some big infrastructure investments coming up. And I think we keep waiting for that asset management plan. And I think there's going to be some big expenses that we haven't really thought about yet. So, but anyway, that's my thought on wastewater. And also, yes, the drought, May 1st is when we get started with, please report your neighbors. If they are sprinkling, they are not supposed to be starting May 1st unless they're establishing a lawn. And it's, I think the other thing that Board of Water and Sewer will be talking about is whether or not the fine for water, for not following those restrictions, whether or not that fine is high enough. Because it sort of is a $50 fine enough to have somebody say, I don't really care, and is $150, is that enough? And are we really making the point that water conservation is important? So that's what's going on.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. Francesca, Community Preservation Committee?
Hi. The last Community Preservation Committee meeting was April 2nd. So I really do not have an update.
It's also the slow period of time for that committee at this point?
Yeah, yes,
Until the fall, when the applications start coming in?
that's right, yes. So yeah, everyone will see, this year's Community Preservation Committee. I guess it'll be a warrant, it'll be an article, excuse me, at the spring town meeting this year.
Thank you very much. Good. Lynn, you had a very comprehensive report in writing a couple of weeks ago for the FinCom, and I wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
I do, yeah. They had a meeting last week, talking about, I guess, and they were considering, they have considered two warrant articles. One they voted on, which was the study for Phase 4 of wastewater. They voted no at first, and then they reconsidered and voted yes. But I will say this, that there is, and it relates to the fire station, there is a lot of concern about debt. Those two projects together bump the town, according to the town treasurer, up right against the very top of debt load as a percentage of your revenue, that a town can maintain a AAA bond rating, which we have, which keeps our interest rates low. And if you're at that level, your ability to take on additional debt or capital of any size is very, very limited. So I would say from last week's meeting, they voted to approve the study, but that was controversial. They did not vote on the fire station. They're going to do it at 5:15 at the town meeting, right before the town meeting. And I would say that there may be a couple of people who are considering not being supportive. Probably the majority of the group, based on comments, is supportive. But I'll just say, many of those folks are not supportive of the wastewater actual implementation of Phase 4. So there's going to be more controversy there when that comes up for town meeting. But for us, in the comprehensive plan, the debt load of those two things makes doing anything that takes a significant capital investment in the comprehensive plan sooner than 10 to 12 years, really, before the police station's paid off, not doable. So that's the reality
The impact.
of where we are, yeah.
Unless the assessed value grows.
Pardon?
Unless assessed value.
No, I'm actually talking about the metric. There's two metrics. One is, the debt as a percentage of equalized assessed value.
Of this, right.
And that we're not hitting any threshold, which is 5%. We're not near there. But that one is really influenced by your assessed value, which it grew in our last year 34%. So that one, I think the Finance Committee, as I understand the discussion, they see as a little, it's nice, but it's not realistic, because we're not going to necessarily reassess everything automatically. So the metric I'm talking about is really a percentage of debt as a percentage of the town's general revenue. And that's the one that they're hitting, the 20% level. Eastham does not have a AAA rating because they're at 19%. And there could be other things as well, I'm sure, factor into it, but that's one issue. So that's the tough issue that the Finance Committee is grappling with.
Reality, right?
Yeah, and there's a divergence of opinion.
And I think people need
Amongst the
to,
group.
I think the people need to understand what the implications would be if we lost our AAA bond rating, what the full implications of that are. So there's a lot of parameters in all of this. So
Right.
we don't want to have a financial discussion at this forum.
Right.
It's out of place for us, but appreciate the comments,
Okay.
and they're very important to us. Mariah, Transportation and Bikeways Committee.
Thank you. Yes, so we met at the beginning of the month, and the committee met at the beginning of the month. There are a couple large projects that they are doing field surveys on. One you've probably heard about, which is the Beach Road connector. There's another piece of that, which is the Main Street sidewalk that they're looking into. And so the primary topic at this meeting was the Main Street field survey results, you know, exploring, so it would be basically between downtown and down to Barley Neck and, you know, what would it take to add a sidewalk along that? So think about, you know, as you come down, well, actually just right down over here, you're coming right along the cemetery, and there's a steep grade and lines of sight, and so there were a lot of thorns in this that they have to get through, and so they are basically just still trying to suss out what those options are and what they would have to go around. Like, does the sidewalk need to jump over and then jump back? But what do you do about speeding cars? And so they're gonna ask for more cost information on this, and also like get a better understanding of like what happens at the pinch points along the cemetery, the commercial areas in front of the, and it is also in front of the Academy Playhouse. So that occupied a majority of the discussion. And so we'll see what happens, you know, as we learn more from VHB. Relative to the other projects, though, that are going on in town, it will be interesting. Like, it seems like there's a lot of planning and exploring and all that, but who knows if we'll be able to implement these as a town once we actually get the numbers. So remains to be seen. George, you were at that meeting. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think you got it exactly right. There is some funds that are being sought for future design. We got the survey in, so we know exactly what the town owns and doesn't own on that laid-out portion of Main Street. And I think that's one of the more important projects to provide accessibility throughout the town, is to deal with one of our main roads that has antiquated and sidewalks that need repair and need to be brought up to code.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, agenda item number 7 is approval of the planning board minutes of our meeting of April 14th, 2026. And I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
And I'll need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? And if not, we'll have, I don't think it's required that you vote, but we'll just do it in roll call anyway because Francesca is here. So Francesca?
Yes.
Mary?
I'm Mary Wright.
Mariah?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
John Osmond, aye. We approve the minutes. Next item is future agenda items, and the first item there is, even though we know we're going to do it, we still need to officially vote to cancel our May 12th meeting, which is the procedure we normally take, because it's the evening after town meeting, in case town meeting were to go more than one night. So we just do this traditionally, and we need to take a vote to cancel the planning board meeting of May 12th, and I'll need a motion to do that.
Motion to cancel the planning board meeting of May 12th.
Great, and I need a second.
Second.
Second. And if no discussion, I'll take a roll call vote. Francesca?
Yes.
Mary?
I'm Mary Wright.
Mariah?
Yes?
Lynn?
Yes.
John Osmond, aye. We are canceled for May 12th. So future agenda items. George?
John, I think the continued zoning discussion will occupy some of your board's time throughout the summer going forward, starting with your next meeting on May 28th. We will also incorporate the growth incentive zone discussion and progress on that, so that will be part of your work. And I think the board is going to, we'll be working on historic preservation planning to the extent that what the town has done so far and how effective it is, and if there are other approaches we could try. So we'd like to bring that to the board at the appropriate time. So those are kind of the big things on the current horizon.
Is there progress on the Town Cove effort that I think Peter said that he would be on? Is that one coming up soon, or is that further in the distance?
No, there's been great progress. We've had 2 working group meetings, an initial one where we got the group together, talked about the objectives of the project, got out in the field and made everyone like muck around in the in the back wetlands in and around the Town Cove area. And the next one in which we spent a lot of time talking about objectives and next steps. So what you'll see immediately out of that is we hope to record a podcast in May, sort of introducing everyone to the underlying sort of components that are driving the project regarding ecological restoration as it applies to the Town Cove area. And then in June, I think those dates are maybe June 5th and 6th, a Friday and Saturday, host a public charrette to look at at the properties we have, sort of from Stop and Shop down to Seacall Farms around Town Cove, and look at the potential applications of these ecological design and restoration projects. So we'll see a lot of notice and outreach on that starting soon. And Peter's been a great member, sort of promoting the urban design and walkability components of the project as primary objectives in it as well.
Thank you. Any other future agenda items?
That's it?
Okay. Before we go to adjournment, I want to take a point of personal privilege and thank Mary Wright for her service to the planning board.
Thank you.
Unless there's some force majeure action that happens in the next few days and weeks, it's likely that you will be leaving us because you will be joining a higher purpose and joining the select board.
August body, yes.
Yes, the august body. And we are so thankful for your service to us over the years. And I would say especially the real heavy lifting that you and Alice Thomason did to get the comp plan into something that looked like something.
Thank you.
You know, and that's a lot of work and a lot of heavy lifting. All the board members were heavily involved, and I just want to recognize you for that particularly, but also for your other contributions. And boy, what a stepping stone. Other people have done it before, and here you go from planning board to the select board. But we are thrilled that you're going for that reason, not that you're leaving us, and that your opening provides certainly opportunity for others over there. And we're so happy that you were with us for a while and provided such a great public service.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you. And John, your leadership on the planning board has been terrific. But thank you so much. And fortunately, I'm not leaving. I'm just, I'm just stepping to a different place. But
Well, we have
looking forward
spies everywhere.
Exactly, exactly. So, but thank you. It's been a privilege. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Appreciate it.
your service.
Appreciate it.
So then, at this point, unless there's any other discussion or any other items from any of the board members, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'll take a second. Thank you. And if no discussion, we'll take a vote. Francesca,
Yes.
Mary,
I'm Mary Wright.
Mariah? Yes. Lynn?
Yes.
John Osmond, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.